morning, the 22nd. And we'll have clinics, and we're going to visit the Northern Minnesota Railroad Heritage Association in Cross Lake. Besides um, old artifacts of the railroads, they also have a model railroad club there. And then we might have the Aiken and Crosby museums or possibilities too. So it's going along well. Um, we can always use some help at the convention. So as for train shows coming up on the 18th at the fairgrounds, then in Fargo on the 17th, the Spud Valley Hobby Show on a Sunday morning up there. And then the following Saturday, Newport Train Club is having their show at Woodbury High. This is, these are all tentative with the COVID thing too. So I think the fairgrounds is coming off for sure. So and that's about all I have. Turn
Okay,
it over
sir.
to Ken.
All right, sir. I appreciate that. Uh, I hope you've all seen the schedule that we have on it was in the crossing gate, and it's also on the website. Um,
I
so
don't, Ken, I don't quite have the full schedule up on the website yet. I need to do that, but I got to create some events. So that'll come shortly.
Yep, but you will see events all the time. There'll be we're going to reach out and keep people in contact. So that's great. I'd like to just add on to what Art was saying. I'm doing clinics for the convention, and of course clinics for the railroad modelers meet that we're doing. And I would certainly appreciate if you have ideas for clinics that you get a hold of me. I've already got a couple lined up um, for March, and I've got a couple lined up for May. So it's going to be great. And by the way, if you think that, gee, I'm going to go to the modelers meet and then not go to the convention, that's okay, but you'd be denying yourself a heck of an opportunity, because Brainerd is only a 2-hour drive away. It's if you drive the right way, you'll pace the Burlington Northern most of the way. Brainerd's got a lot of great things to look at. The hotel's terrific. Um, Everything about that convention is just going to be first class. Art's got a great convention going. So, but if you do have a clinic idea, I'd love to hear about it. That can be about model building operations, anything model railroading connected, history, things like that. So,
Hey, Ken?
yes, sir.
Can interrupt a minute here. Besides the things that Art was mentioning, there's also on October 23rd and 4th is the Randolph Railroad Days. And then Canterbury is November 6th and 7th. And then you're talking about the schedule. I did have that printed up and have delivered out to the hobby shops. And
Great.
I got like 2 more stops in order to make here. So the flyers are out there for people to pick up as well now.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep. And I hope everybody here recognizes that as a division, we're trying to do everything we can to get as much value, help everybody get as much value as they can for for their NMRA membership. And so I'm encouraging people to join. If you don't want to get the magazine right away, that's fine, but just join, because this is where all the cool kids hang out, and you're not having as much fun as you could have if you aren't hanging around with the cool kids. That's just my opinion, and I'm totally unbiased about that. So anybody got any other news they'd like to talk about, old business, new business, or I'm going to start showing you all the neat things that I've gotten from people.
This is Bill Dredge calling from the at the Hennepin Overland. We're back in business on Saturdays and Sundays. But of course, I might have trouble getting around 38th Street because of working on the sewer. So you come from Cedar, come east, you should get in. And also during the summer, you want to know what I did? I went down to the NRHS. We had a convention down in Milwaukee. I went to East Troy one day. I went to the Illinois Railroad Museum another day, and then we're on a commuter on a third day. So that's what I've been doing to keep out of trouble. And also, like I say, Hennepin Overland is open at least Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4. So you want to come on down? We'll sure be glad to see you. Thank you.
Great. I appreciate that. The National Railroad Historical Society is sometimes an unknown jewel here in the Twin Cities. I belong to that, and last meeting they did via Zoom, they had just a phenomenal slideshow that was done by people from the anyway, I forgot the name of the organization. Bill, you might remember it, but anyway, it was on vintage slides of the Burlington along the river, and boy, they were just phenomenal. So again, it just what was the name of that organization, Bill?
Think about some of the Burlington route, but I think they took on other things too. But I don't think it was the Burlington Route Historical Society.
Okay. Good. All right. So anybody, like I said, I'm going to start showing. First, I'll show a short. I'm going to show a short PowerPoint from Dan, and then Dan, you go first. So this is from Dan, and Dan, if you're here, I think I saw you here. Why don't you just go ahead and how come it's not asking me? Oh, here we go. Play. So these are the things that Dan's doing, and Dan, I think you're here. Why, if you want to talk about things that come up, that'd be great.
Yeah, I sure can if you can hear me. So this is inspired by my brother, who he's into printing, graphic design. So he kind of challenged me to this. So I'm doing a commercial printing office, and they just take in a carload. They don't send out by carload, but it's challenged me to do these little paper rolls, which is all styrene, and then build the building around it. So that's all in progress, and I'm hoping to be able to detail the inside of the car with all how the paper's set up in there. So that's really what this one is about.
Good.
I should mention that the other part of that was my first attempt at paper modeling was that loading dock. It was a free model from a company online. This one is through New Tracks Modeling, which is another online model railroading show. And they had a paper modeling clinic. So I attempted to do my best at getting it close to the clinician. And so I was altering it for my layout, and that's a 6-axle engine, so it doesn't really fit in there.
Okay, good. And there's if you're interested in more information about New Tracks Modeling, Dan's given us the link.
Yep. That's just another picture of it, a little bit clearer picture of it.
Yep. Nicely
really
done.
Like I like how as you level it up with the paper, it actually comes out with some definition. So that was really good. So
Cool.
So I'm going to do my first contest build or just a merit attempted a merit for doing. This is the station. I grew up going to New York City every weekend practically when I lived in New Jersey. So I decided to take this on. and that's slow going. And I didn't realize how much detail this station really has. So that's going to be a real challenge for me.
No, no sense starting with an easy one for your first build, buddy.
Well, it wasn't actually my first scratch build, but it's my first real one. So yeah, so here's
Okay.
some more pictures of it.
Great.
And the plans, and it's on the National Registry of Historic Buildings. So I was able to get some stuff, and I'm trying to get some more, to just get more measurements. And you can see there, that's just styrene. I'm actually just measuring everything out, and hopefully going to cut that well. Cutting and styrene and me don't go well together, so we'll see.
Yeah. Use a
Just
sharp
practice.
knife. Yep.
I've
Use it.
bought a lot of blades.
Yeah, a
because
lot of
I know I'm
blades.
going to need them.
Yep.
And I just got this one because I wanted, while I was working on that one, that was taking so long, I also wanted to, I've got 2 modules that have essentially a local yard. And so I wanted to get some grain bins. And I was looking for something cheaper than all the plastic ones that were out there. So I found this at Scale Model Supply in St. Paul. And so I've started that, and gluing the metal roofs is the first step, and I'm having lots of trouble with that too. So it's slow going, but I'm really not interested in buying done models now. I'm really interested in being challenged by this, thanks to the NMRA.
Good. 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 Good.
That should
Okay.
finish out there.
That finishes that one. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Take a second and figure out, kind of start screen sharing again. Oh, not that. There we go. You can tell I'm a highly trained operator here. So I'm gonna, I'll show you a, that's what I just showed you. Never mind. I'll show you just a quick, I worked on a Habitat for Humanity job, and the great part was it was right next to the loose line. So I'm 25 feet up in the air on a ladder painting, and I hear a diesel horn. Of course, I come down like a shot, and everybody around me is going, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Are you hurt? Are you hurt?" And I said, "No, this is important." And I ran around and got a There you go. Now, and that, by the way, that's the loose line. And at one time that was Minnesota and Western. And I still got everybody?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. I'm not always too. I think somebody's. Okay. So I asked folks to send some stuff in, and here's what we got. Away. There we go. So the first shot's from Michael Jordan. Michael lives in St. Paul, and he's got a really nice 2-level layout, but he runs a ramp and not a helix. And so this is Michael's surf line. He does the fruit valley out in California, and so he's building a view with the California surf out there. That's pretty neat. If you listen to the latest Twin City Division Crossing Gate podcast and the discussion about 70 tonners, there's a couple 70 tonners that Mike's been working on trying to get to function. So here's from Kevin Foley. And Kevin, I've built I've built some of the Central Valley flat cars, and they're great. You want to tell us a little bit more about them?
Okay, sure, Ken. Had to unmute there. Like so many of my projects, I bought these probably about 6 or 7 years ago. They sat on the containers or the plastic bags. And I finally put them together, and I thought they were, pretty straightforward kit. You just take your time, and I put them together over the winter, and then they sat for about 3 months, and then one day I decided to get brave and paint them and decal them. And again, it wasn't, I painted the decks, I spray painted the frames, and for the NP cars, I got the decals from the NP Historical Society, and I'll say they are some of the nicest decals I've ever worked with. They really look sharp. And then my private car there, the DNS&O, that's Duluth North Shore in Ontario. Those are just some micro scale and some old Champs decals that I've got laying around. So I had a lot of fun doing it, and it's it does give you a sense of accomplishment instead of just going out and buying something and putting it on the tracks.
Yep, they look good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Here's from Mr. Hamilton, and he's the owner of the famous Geography Bender and Reality Bender and Time Bender and things like that. And Dave added another town on his railroad. Dave, are you there? You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, I'm mostly here. So this is a corner that didn't have much in it, so I decided I should change it and put something there. And I moved that spur track. It used to be on the other side of the main line, so I moved it over because I had these grain elevators that I needed to use someplace, and that's what it ended up looking like. So it creates a little bit more switching on part of the railroad. I still have to finish ballasting the track, and maybe a few extra parts here and there. Since I took that picture, I put lights in some of the buildings, like LED lights. I know I think the truck back behind the grain elevator has headlights in it, and the road in the back just disappears into oblivion. So I'm going to have to come up with some way to catch the vehicles that fall off of there, but we're not going to worry about that now. So, and I bought the red grain elevator at a Menards flea market. It's a Campbell kit, and I have the kit, but when I saw the finished elevator, I decided the heck with the kit, I'll just buy the finished one. And then I built the Walthers elevator that's behind it and kind of stuck the two of them together. So I might repaint the red one. I might not. I might put it on a list for tomorrow, and I'll get to it then. So anyway, that's Genoa, Wisconsin. So there, that took me a couple days to work on.
Great. And then here's some more projects for you, Dave.
Oh, yeah, on the left, that was kind of a picture that I took out in the garage. I finally painted the 2 scratch-built gondolas that I'm working on, and that'll complete the 4 scratch-built car requirement for the AP certificate for rolling stock. So now they're painted. Top one is mineral red. The bottom one is like Vallejo black gray. I have to put the cals on them, and finish them, and then I can get them evaluated. So I'll be that much closer to getting the AP rolling stock certificate. I put in some sound decoders in those locomotives in the middle. One of them is a Proto FA1 that Joe Binish painted for me for the Green Bay and Western. The other one's a GP20 demonstrator that already had a decoder in it, but I was having some mechanical issues with that. And the one on the left is a brass GP30 that I'm finally getting around to finishing. So, and then obviously there's a couple in the background too. I don't even remember why they're sitting there, but you know, one day I work on decoders and another day I work on paint, and then who knows what I'll be working on next. And then I bought, in that picture on the right, there's a company called Suline Parts, and their website is sulineparts.tech. And they are 3D printing wheel chocks for tractors. So if there was a way to zoom in on that, I heard about it after some guy saw his display at the Collinsville RPM meeting a month ago. So I've needed these wheel chocks, and I decided to buy some. So I bought like $15 worth, and they're 3D printed. So I kind of airbrushed them with an acrylic craft paint from Michaels, and then I put an India ink wash on them. And now instead of having to fiddle around with pieces of strip wood, you know, I actually have these formed wheel chocks, and they really look sharp, you know, when you get in close enough to them. And that's also one of the flat cars that I built for the AP certificate. So now I just have to, every project creates a new project. So now that I have the wheel chocks, I guess I should be putting tractors on a lot of these flat cars that I have. But it was worthwhile to do it. I'm glad that I found those things. I didn't want to build them out of strip wood, and the fact that you can get them 3D printed is a pretty good deal. So go to their website, sulineparts.tech, and you'll see these wheel chocks and a bunch of other products that he markets.
I think he's coming out with a caboose here soon.
Yeah, I've seen that on Facebook. Maybe some of the other guys have too. But those wheel chocks are really neat, you know. But and since Eric is the 3D printing expert, it's amazing how much material is there before you cut out the wheel chocks, you know, and you have these massive pieces of plastic with all those little threads or sprues or whatever.
Supports is the technical term, but yeah, they're like sprues.
Yeah, supports. And then you end up just with those little bitty wheel chocks. But it was definitely worth, I think for $5, you get 8 of them. It's 8 or 10 for $5. So I bought like $15 worth. Maybe it's 12. Maybe that's what it is. But it doesn't matter because you use a lot of wheel chocks if you're putting loads on these flat cars. So
Right.
Anyway, so there.
Great.
That's what I've been working on.
Great. And I appreciate you sharing those ideas about 3D printed things, because there's so many of these things out there and it's hard to keep up with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Here's a project we got from Steve Doyle, and Central Camera is in downtown Chicago, and it's kind of an iconic site on Chicago. It's by the L. And so Steve wanted to model it so you can see a daylight shot, a night shot, because he backlit the signs, and then he found a place that made those safety grates, and evidently that's a big deal in Chicago. They might.
Oh, yeah. I wonder why.
Well, and it was that particular camera shop was burned out during the insurrection last year. But you know, we're really lucky in the division to have guys that are great modelers. We have so many of them, and Steve certainly does a great job. And it's fun to see how he does things, and this kind of thing that he's really happy to share what he does and how he does it. So Tom Lennon sent this in, and this started out as a pretty generic cylindrical hopper, but it was an older style, so he took off the stiffening rib that would have been right above where the word Santa Fe was, and then added the later model stiffening ribs. And then it's difficult to see, but both of these cars have a pebbled finish because prototypically they sprayed a foam insulation over the top. And so he did that by putting down some craft paint and some Durham water putty, made kind of a slurry. They took just a little stick and just speckled all over there, and it dried, and it's very hard, so it's going to be durable, and made that insulated look. The generators and the compressors and everything else, all the piping that got the cold air into the car it was all scratch built from styrene. The one that was there from the Northern Pacific, when it first came out, it said Northern Pacific, and it was another load of potatoes for Old Dutch potato chips. So it's
Did he tell you any reason or what these cars were used for?
yeah, the one in the Northern Pacific was made for hauling potatoes. So like I said, it said another load of potatoes for the Old Dutch Potato Chip Company. I don't know what the Santa Fe did with them. I imagine the same thing, or maybe beets. So unique cars. Another structure entry is from Chris Pop, and she started with a model of a station, an New England station, and she just made it into a country garden, which I thought was pretty clever. Full interior and lights, similar to what you saw with Steve Doyle. So pretty neat. Tom Gazier is out running the industrial job for the UP tonight, but he sent some things in. If you haven't gone to the Split Rock Mining YouTube page, you should, because he's always posting really neat things. And here was a Walther's trackside scale kit. You may have seen that kit out there, but in order to really make it work, you've got to create the special rail assembly that you see on the right-hand side. And Tom shows you how he did that. But the reason it's shaped so silly like that is one track is a scale track and one track is a running track. And so they would switch the car onto the scale track, switch it back again, and then the engine would go on the dead track. So the engine didn't have to go over the scale house. So pretty interesting the way he did that. I was hoping he could be here to tell us more about it. Then he also installed a switch and a KD magnetic uncoupler so he could create a caboose track for his Split Rock Mining Company yard down by the docks. So he takes us through that again, if you're interested. The other thing he's been doing is creating a realistic private road boxcar fleet. And what I find particularly interesting about that is he doesn't run any boxcars on his railroad. So he takes these when he goes operate someplace and he leaves them with somebody. And that's really a fun idea for all us to think about. For instance, if you knew anybody that could 3D print lots of boxcars, that'd be really neat. But so he's created his own line of private road boxcar fleet. And then the figures that he's got in front were from a company in England. And I think those of us that watch the 3D market, it's just really, really impressive to see all the different 3D items that are out there. I think he's pushing the season a little bit with the Santa Baby. but that's another story. And then he's actually again on his website, on his YouTube blog, he's got the Switch and Bitchin', and it's a Friday night event where people can just check in, and he's usually got a project going, and you can share projects with him, and just chit chat. And there's a picture of Thomas himself, just another day on the job, running the Spirit of Union Pacific, engine 1946. So, like I say, he's actually out working tonight. So here's another little 3D part that I found, and it's a movable derails from Scotty's Model Shop, and that's scottysmodelshop.com. And you can actually use the same pick you're using for uncoupling and reach down and flip that derail switch off. And so I'm going to have them on the end of many of my sidings. And then I'm going to ask the operators to stop, take them off. When you're done with your work, stop and put them back on. And I think it's going to add a nice little level of detail, operating detail, that I hope people like. There's some people that aren't going to want to do that, and they can just leave them open. I don't care. That's fine. But and this is, by the way, he does them in 3 different sizes: code 70, code 83, and code 100. And this is a code 100 one, and it's on my scale layout. So it works well for HO and S. But they're nice, and they're just very, very simple. There's a little pin in there, and they flip just very nicely. So not expensive at all. Scotty's Model Shop. So here, I think is, and again, I apologize. Sometimes I miss. Did this come from Brian?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. I just wasn't sure, and I didn't want to put the wrong name on it. You want to tell us about what you're showing us here?
Well, in the middle, I also went to the Illinois Railway Museum this summer, so that's where that photo is taken with that TP5 signal, which is the full-scale version of the ones I talked about last time on here. Of course, they have at the Railway Museum, they've got this huge row of signals of all different types. Really quite amazing. So what I've been working on, though, up into the summer, involved the yard and engine terminal area on the layout. And I wanted to have some sanding towers there. So I found these Stewart sanding towers at Scale Model Supplies, and they come so that they will sand on one side, not 2 sides. So what I ended up doing was just kind of kit bashing them and creating double arms on them, so you could put them between 2 tracks, so you could have sanding on either side. So it took me some time to figure out how to do that, how to make it look right. I did a lot of internet research on sanding towers, I've seen them many times, but I'd never spent as much time thinking about them as I did on this project. And also looking at a lot of Rock Island slides to see exactly, what kind of colors they had on them, things like that. So I worked on that, and I had to place them in the engine terminal area where I have 6 or is it 8? No, 6 tracks in the engine terminal area. So these sanding towers serve 2 of those tracks. This is all part of the whole winter project, which was taking the yard, which had no ballast or anything in it, and ballasting it, which I'd never done before. So that was another thing, one type of ballast in the yard and another type in the engine terminal, make it look dirty and greasy and all that stuff. But I also had to build up the terrain in the yard and in the engine terminal, because when I built this layout, I used cork, and of course that gives you, some nice, raised track, which looks great on the main line, but not in the yard. The yard is usually pretty flat. So I had to raise the ground level in the yard. I used Sculpt-A-Mold that I tinted, and then I painted it with acrylic paint. And that was all before I did all this ballasting or put these sanding towers in. So yeah, so I did the sanding towers and painted them. Had to figure out how to put the, get the arms on them, the hoses that hang down. One is a high hose, one that goes all the way down close to ground level. And I had to make sure that they cleared the locomotives, because when I designed this and built it, I wasn't thinking about sanding towers. So it was a real close fit. trial and a little bit of error. But what I ended up doing with those hoses is I have some piano wire that I used, and I used piano wire inside of the hose. And for the hose, I actually used some heat shrink tubing instead of what they supplied with this kit, because it's a little less glossy.
Okay.
So I used that, and I didn't shrink it. It looked pretty good just as is. It does have those little white marks on it, the printing on it. But if you turn it the right way, you don't see it.
Okay. Brian, when you were tinting your Sculpt-A-Mold, did you tint it while you were mixing it?
Yeah, well, I tried two different things. First, I got some Woodland Scenics paint to tint it with, and what I found was the tint was, even though it looked kind of dark when it was wet, once it dried, it was awfully light, and so I knew that if or when I ever chip it, I'm going to see this white is going to shine through. So I went to Wet Paint, this art store here in St. Paul on Grand Avenue, and talked to them, and they have these really, really strong art tints made by a company out of Germany, which is escaping me right now. Humbrol, it might be. Anyway, they come in many different colors. And so I bought a couple of them, and all it takes is, they come in these little dropper bottles. So you put in, a quarter of a dropper bottle for a full mix of the Sculpt-A-Mold, and it tints it incredibly deeply. And it stays, it doesn't fade. So I use that.
And so that way, if you chip the plaster or drill a hole in it, you're not going to get a bunch of white powder.
Yeah, exactly. You could tint any plaster, any kind of solid that you're mixing, as a paste, or it would probably work for it. So that was a learning thing.
Great. That's good. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting one. Brian sent this in from Vincennes, Indiana. Brian follows us through our all of our Facebook misdeeds. I don't know, Brian, are you here?
I don't see him on the list of attendees.
Okay. Well, Brian farms potatoes down in Indiana, and this is, and so he shot this from a drone while he was harvesting potatoes, and so that's pretty cool. Then a photo of a depot that he's building, and then a shot of Indiana Interstate locomotive that's in the area. So I think it's kind of fun that through our Zoom meetings and our podcasts and everything, we're gaining a national attention for the Twin City Division. So guys, when you share your work with the division, you're sharing it far and wide, which I hope you're all happy about. And I think you should be, because we do a lot of great work here. So thanks to Brian. Martin sent this. I know most of us don't like to ballast our layouts, and this kind of takes ballast to the extreme, if you ask me.
Is that Train Mountain?
I didn't ask him that. It may well be. He just sent it, and he said, if you want to know what I've been doing this summer, here you go. So, but if it is Train Mountain, that'd be a good thing to have Brian send us some more information on, maybe do a presentation on Train Mountain. That would be a lot of fun. So I suppose if you derail here, it's not that you can just sneak your hand out and calmly put it back on the rail and hope nobody saw that. Might be a little more intense.
It's not too bad.
Okay.
I've re-railed a car that size before. Now, if it's full of rock, that might be a little different story. But
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty cool. So here's one for me. I made a trip down to Chicago and went to Des Plaines Hobby, and this was imagine that laser arts kit that was done years ago, and I brought it back, and I wanted to make a scenic view block. So what I did was throw away their instructions, and I started building what I thought I needed. That's a bad habit of mine. I throw away instructions.
we're
So
men, we don't need instructions.
yeah, well, there you go. So the building on the right that you see there, the dark colored building, that's a completely different scene on the other side. And so these 2 yards are 2 industrial areas. The one on the left is the Minneapolis Urban Canyon. The one on the right is the Northern Pacific F line. They cross each other, but you can't go from one to the other. You've got to go out onto the layout to come back. But here's some little things that I did. I placed those doors 50 feet apart for 50-foot boxcars, although the majority of my boxcars are 40 feet. And I did that on purpose so that when an operator comes in, they're going to have to make 2 moves to stack to put the cars in. Then I put truck docks on either end. Now you can see that the building is not attached to the foundation yet because I'm still trying to decide how much interior I'm going to do. I'm also trying to decide what the roof line needs to look like. That upper roof has an air conditioner on it, but I'm not sure in the mid to early 60s if buildings like this would really be air conditioned or if they'd be vented. So I'm looking for somebody that can help me out with more information on what big manufacturing buildings like this would look like back then. So, and as you see, I had to cut one track and make it a little shorter in order to get this in. This is the layout changes as new interesting things catch my eye, and I decide to build them. Then here also from the Plains Hobby, this is a kit that's probably been out of production for 10 years. It was called a welding shop, but I added 2 layers of concrete block to the base to get it a little higher. And now it's going to be the maintenance shop for my municipal building. And when I built it, I was just going to seal it up, and that was the end of it. But then I saw a guy that put some interior on his buildings, and I thought, oh boy, that sounds like fun. And that's a rabbit hole, guys. Once you start down detailing the inside of buildings, it can drive you nuts. But in there, you'll see some little 3D printed items that I found. I went on the internet and I found a hardware store pinup calendar that's there. I found a little toilet, first aid kit, and then in the office, of course, has got the 1964 Northern Pacific calendar that I downloaded and shrunk down to be able to put office size. So it was a lot of fun. And now that I've done that, I have to redo the roofs so I can get the roofs off. But guys, if the hobby will do nothing else, it'll suck up all the time in the world that you're willing to give it. So there's that. Steve Worthington from the Thousand Lakes region posted a couple pictures. Many of you have seen that he has a double O layout out in western Minnesota, and it's all British prototype. And he just added these 2 new industries that I thought was pretty neat. Again, go to the TLR and take a look. He's posted some videos of what he's done. it's really pretty neat. For those of us that have never done anything with stuff from Europe, it sure is interesting to see how things are done. So this is in the top of a great big pole barn, and the bottom has got classic cars. So how could you not want to go out and visit that? So here's another one that came to us. This is from Warren, Massachusetts. Somebody's a fan of the Twin City Crossing Gate podcast, and I think there's some really interesting pieces on here. He models a short line that goes to a quarry and then connects with a lot of the railroads that are in New England.
Is this the Kevin Smith that's on?
Kevin, is
here?
this you? Are you here? Kevin?
No, if you're talking, you're muted, but oh, maybe he stepped away.
Okay. He notes that the load of granite in the gondola clearly is not a high priority load, because it seems that the foliage has grown up around it. And I just think that's a really interesting scene. So great New York Central baggage car. So nice work. Very nice work. Oh, here's another. I was talking to Scott from Scotty's Train Shop, and he showed me this is his latest and greatest little thing. You cut little microfiber. Gives you microfiber cloths. You put it in the green thing, drop in the plunger, and then use it to clean your rails. And I'm gonna get one when they come out next week, and then I'll report on the Twin City Division website what I find about it. But it's just a really neat idea, because at least for me, I always have a problem with cleaning my rails. This year particularly, because my dehumidifier broke and I bought one that was too small. And when you don't keep the humidity down in your basement, the rails gather a lot more dirt, because the rails don't heat up as fast as the air, and so the dirt condenses on them. So if you're interested in keeping the dirt off, there you go. There's an idea. William Sampson shared some things he's been doing. One is he upgraded his proto throttle with the knobs that more accurately depict what EMD knobs look like. And I'm not too familiar with what the difference is, but he's gonna do some work on his podcast to show us how he programs for his proto throttle. And then the next thing he showed me was he bought a set of these AK Interactive watercolor pencils. And I don't know, has anybody else worked with these? I'm just really impressed with the work is able to get done on me. He just sent me these pictures today, so I can't tell you a lot more, but he promised to do a video on how he did this and share it with us. So just look at that Milwaukee car. I mean, that is so cool. As is that Sioux Line car. So a future clinic for all of us Twin City Division folks. And then the last thing that I have in this group is just to remind you about the podcast. So wherever you get your podcasts, go download the Twin City Division podcast. It's just a nice conversation piece. Give it a 5-star rating, and tell us why you like everything. And if you don't like everything, tell us about that too. If you've got some ideas, if you want to talk to us, just get a hold of Tom. It's all that's what it's there for. So that's the pieces that I have.
Ken, I can quick show a couple of
Oh yeah,
mine
please
here
do.
a minute. So let's see here. Share screen. One.
If anyone else out there has got things to share, please raise your hand and you can certainly share.
All right. So I had, this is from a trip to Michigan. This is Paramarquette number 1223, a sister locomotive to the operating 1225, basically identical. This one was it just so happened that they were having a once yearly open house the same day I happened to be heading back to Michigan. This isn't too far from where I grew up. So I said, hey, I better stop by. So stop by, take a few photos. I got a nice wigwag signal outside. Caboose. The red's a little faded, but it's not in too bad a shape. There's the family all on board, wife and my 2 daughters. And of course, I had to get a picture of myself. Of course, on the fireman side, there's a step that kind of blocks the good picture from the engineer's side. And of course, I got my daughter here at the throttle. And so that was one thing this summer. And of course, as was mentioned earlier, I've been 3D printing box cars. This happens to be the one that I brought along last May. Was it May? Yeah, May to the Jackson Street Roundhouse, just for reference. But I've printed a bunch more. So
Jeez.
now I've got to go ahead and strip all those supports off and paint them and decal and the like. So I've got quite a collection there. I did actually buy a printer that can handle those ghost white toner, so I can
Really?
print the decals in white. Yep. So
Great.
yeah, I printed one. I haven't tried it yet because I got to paint one here, but they seem to come out all right. And I'll see how they actually work, if they're not too fragile when working with them. And then my next project, this is a Paramarquette caboose. I kind of got the outside done. I got to finish the interior and the brake detail and the ladders and such, but then break it up and figure out how many pieces I'm going to print it in. Finally, I think a lot of you saw this was the picture for the event. I did happen to go down to Texas earlier this summer and take a spin on the Texas State Railroad. Fortunately, the other pictures are trapped on a different camera, but it was a nice trip. This Texas State Railroad was actually built originally by the state as a railroad to connect their prison with their prison industries, their logging camps and the like. And so it was actually, basically for the prisons. And now it's a tourist railroad with a nice ride and nice meal and that if you want to do that. So it's in Palestine, Texas. If you ever happen to be down that way, and it works out for you, I'd recommend stopping by. And that's it for me.
Eric, I have a question for you. Because you did all the programming on your boxcar,
Yeah.
do you know if you get credit for that as if it were a scratch build?
I would assume I do.
Yes.
Okay.
So I have 30 of them printed. I just have to finish, that's like removing a lot of sprues. So
Of those 30, how many more did you do, or how many more did you have flaws on that you?
Well, given this was my kind of first real successful work, I don't know, I probably had 15 or so total that I have, I'd have to go count, but there was a bit of a learning experience. In some cases it was tweaks. In a few cases I broke, parts when I was trimming, but and a variation thing. So I don't know, I probably printed about 15 of them, I'm guessing, as part of my learning curve.
But now they're all printing. Now you're just kind of printing them out, and that's your wait time is all there is, right?
Pretty much. I mean, every now and then you still have a flaw and, you have a print failure, but I'm generally fairly successful now. So, and I did have to do some tweaks. This one, when I would run it around at first, I thought it was because my floor wasn't glued down and it was warping, but I actually didn't quite have enough clearance between the wheels and some of the underframe detail. So it was dragging. It's like, boy, that car doesn't roll very freely. So I had to kind of shift things about 10, 15 thousandths of an inch to get some clearance and be able to roll smoothly.
That's neat. I'm not an expert Eric, but I think that you'll probably get full credit for scratch building the first one, but not the 30th one.
Yeah, whatever. So I don't know how many you need, but you know, like I said, I got another project, so you know, I'll get there.
That's great.
All right.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. How about anybody else? Anybody else want to share screen and show us something they've been doing?
You may need to speak up. I'm not sure if the settings allow us to say so, and I'll figure it out here. Or maybe I'll just have to
I think
allow
I
sharing.
can.
Yeah.
All right,
Oh,
there we go. I just changed the settings to allow participants to share screen. So anybody, if you put your mouse kind of, at least for mine, at the bottom of the screen, you put your mouse down there near the bottom of the window, you'll see a little green button that says, with an up arrow that says share screen. At least that's how it looks on mine.
okay. Here we go. Randy's got something.
The question is it showing up?
Yes,
This is
we see a Facebook page here from the.
yeah. I sent Ken some pictures, but I don't think I made the cut here. So actually flip it over to. Things blocking my view here. Dang it.
Well, it's actually looking okay there when you had it up. I don't know if that
Yeah, I
volume
was
mixer.
trying to switch to a different tab here.
Okay.
There it was.
Okay.
I reckon it.
So this is a model that I built, 44 years ago when it first came out in the 1977. E.L. Moore published an article in Model Railroader called the Stack Glue Works. And I think I was like 13 or 14 at the time. And I know I built this one, but I have no clue where it ended up. So the original was built out of balsa sheet and like brick paper, I believe. Pretty much followed what he did on his original stuff. So I started this summer during our camping sessions. I bring all my stuff with me in the camper for downtime. So I've been working on a rebuild of this now with N scale styrene build. So the entire build is the main building is brick, and I'm using the Plastrec brick sheets for that. And I double cut all the walls, so there's actually an interior and an exterior version of everything.
Wow.
Which is why everything's kind of mirrored here. Here it's kind of a mocked up early before I start gluing things together. So this is the double sheets glued together and beveled. Some of the window frames putting in, I removed those window frames later and put in some thinner material. So initial mock-up of the building. I think this is after the first glue up of the walls. I believe that's just another shot of that one. This is the first coat of undercoat paint, just kind of a light burlap color. This is after dry brushing on some brick and painting some of the window frames. You can see there the interior brick surfaces.
How did you get the little? I know there's a name for it. The little raised brick above the.
Those are all
windows.
hand scribed. Yeah, those were just strips of styrene that I scribed with a dental pick.
All right.
Wow.
And then the latest
Very nice.
project is these. I can never pronounce it right. Is it Claristory? Something like that. The upper barn windows on the building. So these, I printed out basically a layout of all the studs and jacks and headers and stuff. And then built a jig on top of that.
Another
Is that right?
call me. So
So this is during the assembly of that. This is some hand scribed styrene 6-inch clapboard glued onto the frame. Here's the window frames being assembled and cut out. This is the final assembly before the window trims were put in. Here's a placement of the interior. The rest of the interior, the walls and the roofs are going to be glued on, but the actual interior itself is going to slide in from the bottom. So you'll be able to lift the entire thing up off the interior. And then let's see those pictures. That's kind of an overview for size of roughly what the sizings are on this thing. Oops. That was the 2x4 framing after it popped out of the jig.
Hey, Randy, I have a question for you. If you go back one.
Mhm.
Okay, so I see the windows. The framework underneath the windows, why was that there?
The 2x4s and stuff.
Yeah. Why did that go down?
What do you mean down?
That doesn't, if you look at the shape of the roof, doesn't that match where the wallboard
the
is?
bottom of it,
Yeah.
the wallboard. If you look at the exposed section has the siding on it. The other part goes down, and there's a floor that comes across where this roof line ends. So there'll be rafters coming down from that open section to
Yep.
the top of the brick wall, and then straight across from there and back, there's a floor that comes in. So
okay.
those open studs will be sitting on an upper floor.
Oh, all right. Wow.
You can
That's
kind of see it
interesting.
from, might show up in that other picture. This one here. So here you can see the covered siding ends at the top of the roof line, and then the studs go down to the sill on the bottom here, and then the interior that comes up from the bottom will have an upper floor on it that will mesh up with that, and the rafters will be coming down from the sides to the top of the brick wall.
Wow. Wow, that's fantastic. Randy, I do recognize your message to me. I apologize for
that's fine.
Having to get lost in the shuffle.
So this is the first painting layer. It's basically a thin wash of a kind of a wood color, and then on the back side I painted the darker color for tar paper inside. These are kind of out of order.
Yeah, it's okay. That's neat.
This is with the window trims in, and the window trims are actually painted yellow according to the article, because he said when he painted the window trims that he painted them yellow because he was getting tired of painting green ones. So I painted them yellow just to match.
Yeah. And this is all in N scale?
Yeah, it's all N scale. Each one of these wall assemblies is about 100 pieces by the time
That's
you get.
Amazing.
And I've got, I don't know if you can. I don't know how I share my camera.
I think I can just pop you out here if your camera's
yeah, just pop me out.
Let me see here.
I've started putting in the windows, I guess.
Okay, there I think I pinned you. I don't know if everybody's sees just a big screen of Randy, or
I don't know if you can see that, but that's the windows.
Yeah.
We have to, oh yeah, there we go. But if we stop sharing it, it'd get bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, okay, stop it from here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see the windows are coming in now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Some of them are open. I don't have all of them in yet, but
that's so tiny and in scale.
those are Those are individual squares of, well, not individual, each window opening has a single piece of clear styrene with the mullions and stuff painted onto them.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's what I've been doing.
Okay.
Taking forever, but it's coming together, I guess.
You have the magnifying glass out for that work, or not
Yeah,
yet?
it's all under magnifier headset and lots of lights and sharp tools.
Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed and awed. So, and I suppose you guys are all going to bring these things to the convention next year. So we'll have lots of things in the celebration room. So, looking forward to that. Anybody else have some things that they'd like to show off to us? Oh, let's not all just jump up at once. There's plenty of time, guys. Plenty of time. Okay, well, people are working on their courage to what they're going to show. Point out that next month is a Saturday meeting, and it'll be held in Hopkins, and it's a building that's being refurbished right now for a model railroad museum by Dave Jasper. We're going to build T-track squares, and everybody will be able to take one home. So, Art, who's help me remember who's taking the lead on that?
I don't think anyone's jumped up yet.
Well, there'll be all sorts of wooden pieces there ready to go, and we'll bring we'll have little staple guns so we can put everything together, and you'll be able to walk away with a T-track square, and then work on it during the course of the year, and then bring it back to the March modelers meet, and then up to the convention in May. So it gives everybody a chance to get involved and do something fun.
We need to purchase some wood and cut it to size.
Yep.
And probably go purchase Cato track too.
Yeah,
Yep.
you can get some fairly inexpensive. And Ken, I think remember correctly, we thought that, if you're an NMRA member, it's free.
Yep.
And if you're not, and you want to go, I think, what would you say? Was it going to be $5? So,
Right.
I will get something on the website with a sign up, because this is one of those things where it'd be a good idea to have an approximate number for how many people are coming. So we
Right.
don't make too many, and also conversely, we don't make enough, which would be even worse. So,
Sure.
What date in October again?
9.
Yeah, that's the second Saturday is the 9th.
Okay.
Yep,
So
9.
we basically need to meet someplace and get the pieces cut up, and someone who has a good set of tools. So
I have a cheap table saw, but if necessary, I can do that here. But if someone's got a nicer table saw, like a true cabinet maker's table saw, that would be better.
Okay.
But
Well,
it can be me if need be.
we'll figure that out. I've got a power miter box, or my wife does. So we'll find. So if you've got something you can volunteer on that, give Art a message. You can message them directly or through info@TCD NMRA, and that would be fantastic. So
.org.
.org. Yep, and that's what's coming up in October, November. We're doing another virtual meeting via Zoom, and we'll have some presentations. We have some lined up, but if you've got an idea, we'd appreciate it. And if you remember last year, Brian and a couple others did layout tours, and those are a lot of fun. So if you want to do that in December, we're meeting in person at Bethesda Lutheran Church at 9:30 in the morning, and it's our annual year-end gathering and auction. So we'll have a bunch of things there to auction off, fun things like that. So it'll just be a nice opportunity to get together, and perhaps if we get done in time, we can go find a little place to have lunch together, just enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yep. January and February, we're meeting virtually. And of course, if all this blows over and everything's cool, we could always change that, but we're not, we're planning on conservatively. March 11th and 12th is the modelers meet, and there'll be more information on that. And then the 14th, we're going to meet again of May, we'll meet at the MTM Roundhouse. And there'll be a special presentation in our annual meeting. And then May 19, 20, and 21 is the NMRA convention up in Brainerd. And that's, guys, that's going to be just as much fun as you can have with your combat boots on. That's all I can tell you. So there you
So
go.
we need to
And
run
I had
to the
lo-
Army surplus store and buy some.
No, I'll just give you I'll just tell you this. My Army experience, you can have an awful lot of fun in combat boots, but this will be more fun. So trust me, just trust me. So anybody else? There's some people here that I don't recognize names, and I apologize if I should. So I'm gonna just right offhand just say hi to people, and if you're new, great. If you're not, like Ricardo.
Yes. Oh,
Tell us about you. Who are you and where are you?
here in Eden
There.
Prairie, Minnesota. And I'm modeling on N scale.
Okay.
And I have been in a couple of meetings. I
Good.
have a question for you guys, because since I'm sure that you have cars on the thousands, right? I'm just starting to build up my car. This is one that I got from the museum, train museum, railroad museum that is close to St. Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
And I noticed that the wheels, they're just low quality. They come apart and it's fine. It's fine. It's a nice toy. In any case, the question is there a standard on the NMRA on how the trucks should be moving along? Is there a friction or a speed? Or, I mean, most of the better quality cars, they move along and very easily. But I was wondering, is there an NMRA standard for that?
I don't know that there's one for how well they roll, but I do know that there's different standards, minimum standards for trucks. Some of the HO guys can probably tell you. Was that an HO or an N scale car? Oh, that's N. That's right.
It's an N, yeah.
Yeah. There are better quality trucks out there.
I'm not that big, you know.
Do you live in the Twin Cities?
Yeah, in Eden Prairie.
In Eden Prairie. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how about the N scale guys? What trucks and couplers do you recommend?
Well, I'm going to be using the Caddy ones.
80, yeah.
80, and I got a recommendation of the truck itself. I don't recall now, but yeah, because this one eventually needs to be replaced. It's not that good.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering if there is some kind of definition of what would be the role of the trucks.
The first thing I would do is definitely move to metal wheels. That'll make them roll better on your track to start with. Now, the trucks themselves, I don't know if there are standards or if there are better quality ones out there. But I start with metal, changing plastic to metal wheels.
I don't know if it exists in N scale, but in HO scale, I think Micromark has this little tool that it's basically pointed on the end, and you put it inside the truck, and it kind of bores out the I don't know what you call it, the bearing areas where the pointed ends of the truck go in, of the axle go into the truck, and there might be an issue there. They might just need a little bit of cleaning up, but I don't know if something like that exists for N scale or not.
I see what you're saying, man. That's good idea.
The MRA also has a gauge tool among, besides clearance and that for
Yeah, for
the
this
track,
separation of the
there's
wheels. Yeah.
also
Yeah.
make sure the wheels are aligned right on the bottom.
Okay.
Well, that's great. Reach out on the on our Facebook page because unfortunately I'm in S scale, which is a long way away from N, and any information I give you would undoubtedly be incorrect. So, but yeah, thank you for joining us, and I appreciate your question.
Yeah.
Reach out and ask some more questions here because that's what it's all about.
No, well,
So-
I have one last question then.
Yeah, please do.
Is has anybody tried to do some tinkering with hump yard? I have seen some on
Hump
the
yard?
internet. They have a mix of even pneumatic.
Yep. The
Mm.
North Metro Club has a working hump yard. It's
Cool.
HO scale, but it's a working hump yard.
Who has it? Sorry.
It's called the North Metro Model Railroad Club, and they're in Coon Rapids. And it's a rather large club layout in the basement of a building. It's about 6,000 square feet. And it's an HO railroad, but they have a working hump yard. So, and they use, but I don't remember if I know they have little car retarders that they made to slow the cars down, when they come off the hump. But I'm kind of thinking that they came up with some way of blowing air up
Yeah.
between the rails.
Because on a hump yard, it makes a difference how easy or
Yep.
Oh
difficult
yeah.
the rolling goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what else I would,
Solutions even. Okay.
even as far as what you're doing there, there's a couple pretty large N scale layouts in the Twin City area. There's a guy named Matt Clare that has a pretty large layout that, I even helped him build, and I know he's got about 1,000 freight cars on it. And there's another guy in Egan, I think, named Ken Borowski. So the thing would be to get you in touch with those guys because they could probably answer, from the size of their railroads, and they're both operators. So I know they make sure their rolling stock is pretty good. So if we can get in touch with you somehow, it'd just be a matter of talking to those two guys. So,
Yep.
So that's what I would suggest.
Yep. Just make contact through the Facebook page. That'd be great. Yep. That would be great.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Good. Thank you. So, Michael Steckleberg, come on down. There you go.
Yeah, my name's Mike Steckelberg. I live up in north of Becker, Minnesota,
Okay.
and I'm modeling the line that goes from St. Cloud to Hinckley.
Oh,
And
okay.
I've got a 30 by 30 foot heated room in the back of my shed, and I have everything's operating, and I just starting the scenery. But I'm also interested in the operational aspects. So I'm trying to figure out how to run trains from Minneapolis east and west and from St. Cloud to north. And I've been playing around with the operational aspects quite a bit. Car forwarding, waybills.
Oh, great. Well, there's certainly a lot of people that model this area that would be able to be of assistance. That's great. If you're interested, when we have one of our Zoom meetings like in November, if you want to work with us and put together a little tour, we'd be happy to do that. That'd be fun to do that. But then there's a Minnesota, what is there, Dave Hamilton? Is it called the Minnesota Operators Facebook page or something? Yep. We started a Facebook page and then COVID stopped us for people in the area that wanted to do operations, because there are folks in the area that would know how to would know that information. Are you familiar with the Great Northern Railroad Historical Association?
Yes, in fact, they're actually having a Zoom virtual convention, the 18th, 19th, and it'll be the 25th and 26th, I think.
Yep. They also have an archive, and boy, I just know the information you're looking for is available. So yeah, reach out, and again, if you've got time, we'd love to have a tour of your layout.
It's pretty rough. It's basically flat with rail on it, but it does operate. I'm also working on some signaling. I just bought 2 of the new Circuitron Tortoise Smails. It's the new one that are DCC compatible. They got a decoder built in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just starting to wire up one of those and see if I can do some signaling off of it.
Cool. Well, Brian, who was talking to us a little earlier, has signaled his layout, and that's really impressive. So again, there's a lot of folks here that can help you out with that. Jimmy Anderson. There you
Hello.
go. Tell us about yourself.
I live in Prior Lake. I've been modeling about 30 years, but I just recently joined the NMRA and want to get a little bit more involved in like operations and just making more connections. I went up to the convention in Bismarck, and that was excellent. I
Great.
really enjoyed my time there. And just got to get into doing a little bit more of the stuff around the Twin Cities and get more into it as part of a sectional group. And we'd set up Canterbury, and we did Egan a couple times. It was OS and BO, but that's now kind of disbanded. The modules are getting kind of beat up and old, but just have a small layout at home, and hope to expand using the kind of the TOMA principles.
Sure.
Make some module pieces in my garage and bring them downstairs. But for right now, I've got a very well scenic DCC programming track. 5x6. And but I enjoy it. I like building structures and making little scenes.
Great. What scale are you in?
HO.
Oh, that's cool. Well, good. We'd love to have you share more with what more of what you're doing. I know Prior Lake to me is a big area because I'm up in Plymouth, but are you close to the casino or closer to the lake?
I'm on the east side, so closer to Savage.
Okay.
Okay, I live in Savage. This
Yeah.
is Art Sewell.
Great.
Yeah, I'm down by 21, by the Quick Trip on Fish Point and 21.
Okay.
That's the only landmark on this side of town. Yeah, but the casino, that's on the other side of the lake from me.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate you checking in with us, Jimmy. William, I'm sorry, you're a guy a name that I don't recognize. Can you say hello? Okay, William, I'm gonna come back to you then. Travis? Jeez. Now, Dennis, you're a guy that I've met a number of times. You want to say hello?
I think they're all muted.
They are. That's
Yeah.
why I'm asking them to
Yeah.
unmute, say hello.
Some people may not be at the computer at the moment.
That's
That
okay.
happens. So
And I hate to scare people.
Nah.
Now, for those of you that have listened to the podcast, you know the foil of most of the jokes is the guy that gets picked on a lot is Joe Binish. So and I see Joe's here. Joe, you want to fess up?
Yeah, I guess I have to. Hello,
Joe,
can you hear me?
Yeah, Joe, what are you working on?
Tonight I have some resin castings of the Baldwin baby faces that I'm working on for a friend of mine who lives in New Jersey. So
Okay.
while I've been listening to everything going on, I've been bending little photo etched pieces and drilling holes and putting decal rivet strips on the roof and drilling holes, all that kind of stuff.
Great.
So I'm
Great.
making remarkable progress.
Oh, good, good. Well, appreciate you checking in, and that's great. So, Mick, I know that you live just on the east side of Minneapolis, don't you?
Yeah, you could say that. I guess I'm the interloper here. I know Ken from a weekly podcast that we both, or a Zoom call that we tune into every week. And he made the mistake of inviting me to tune into your meetings. And so I've tried to do that every time you have have one of these Zoom sessions. I live in Ottawa, Ontario. I'm in the St. Lawrence division of the National or Niagara Frontier region, rather. And I model in N scale. I'm a member of an N-track modular club here, and hope someday to build a home layout. I've moved to Ottawa and left my first layout, and haven't got around to building one here. And I will share my screen. I feel kind of guilty not contributing. So I did a little bit of modeling this summer. And so I'll share my screen, and I show you a project that I worked on here. There, can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
So this is a hunter line kit of a king post bridge in N scale. And it's the first time I've ever built one of the hunter line kits. And if anybody's interested, they make great kits. And so that is not a very big bridge, but it was a bit of a challenge. Just trying to get these truss rods. You have to, there's 3 small pieces that all come together, and then you have to drill a hole down through there and insert a small truss rod. And it doesn't really show up in the pictures very well, but there are nut, bolt, and washer castings on these at the bottom of all these timbers here, and on the top and bottom or the ends of that truss rod, there are also nut, bolt, and washer castings as well.
Is this an N scale or HO?
No, this is N scale.
I didn't know they made nut and bolt castings for N scale, but holy cow.
They're pretty teeny. So you might be able to see them a little bit better. There's 3 here and 3 down here. It's not.
Wow.
And on the top of the king post here of the truss rod and down here as well. So yeah, it's fun.
Neat.
Yeah, I like to challenge myself.
Did you do that as part of the build along with the hunters?
I did, actually.
So for everybody, that's on the New Tracks modeling Wednesday nights every week. That's something that I was promoting earlier. That's something I'm part of too. I didn't do this. There's no way I think I could ever do that, but I did my build along was the paper model. So.
Oh yeah. So I really appreciate Randy's work and what he was showing, the scratch building he's doing on that building earlier. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
nice. Nice work. So thanks for letting me tune in.
Yeah, and Mick, you're welcome to the convention. Come on down.
I'd love to. Right now, they won't let us in. So
but you'll be able to get in by then.
I sure hope so.
Okay.
I'd love to do that.
That'd be great. Hey, I saw William Stewart unmuted himself, so you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, it's really Terry. I go by my middle name, and I'm way out of here. on the way down in Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh, Falston, little tiny town. I do two things. I am the innkeeper of the Falston Flagstaff Railpan Bed and Breakfast, which is really my house, which I bought so I could watch the trains go by on CSX in the backyard and Norfolk Southern on the other side of the Beaver River. That's the main thing we do. I'm also a Pennsy fan, Pennsylvania Railroad, and we model that. When I was growing up in Cleveland, I always watched the ore trains that came down not too far away from where you are, and came down to Cleveland, and then from there, the iron ore was taken out of the ore boats on the Great Lakes and put into railroad cars. And I used to watch them as a kid. I always wanted to do that, modeling wise. Finally can. And so we model a piece of the Pennsy that's west of Pittsburgh. It goes out to Mingo Junction, Ohio, and across the Ohio River to Weirton Steel. The steel mills are pretty well depleted now, but the other trains are still out there. So we watch trains and we model trains in the basement.
Great. Well, Terry, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Let's see, Ron Olson. I'm sorry.
I say thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Ron, you've got a new division. You've got a new position in the division, right? Or in the region?
Yeah, I do actually. I have Art's old regional position, secretary for the Thousand Lakes region. So I figure if I don't know how to do it, I'll just ask the expert who used to be doing it.
Congratulations.
You'll do a great job.
He will. He will. So, and then let's see. I don't know. I don't know. I probably missed somebody. I can see Brian is running trains behind him. That's pretty tricky, Brian.
I'm just making sure this is the mechanical testing. How long can they go?
There you go. There you go. Well, if let's say, I guess, Rick, you want to say hello to this is Roundhouse Rick, who keeps everybody in the Twin Cities area up to date, because with his regular postings of railroad activities and model railroad activities. It's good to see you, Rick. And I don't know, I'm sure I missed somebody else, and I apologize for that. So that's what I have. Again, a reminder that next month you'll be able to get your T-Track modules, and in November we're going to do another Zoom, and we'll have presentations. But I'm always looking for people that want to share something. So, like I said to guys, if you want to show us what you're doing on your layout, I'd be happy to work with you ahead of time to put together a presentation, and then I can show it for you. So all you have to do is show up and talk over it. But anything else that you're interested in, Ricardo, you brought up some great points about how to make N scale things run better. I'll bet there's 2 or 3 guys on the topic that, or on the podcast here, that know guys that could put a real great presentation together on how to do that. So that's what I'd like to share, because that's what the division's all about, is helping everybody get more fun out of model railroading. So, yeah, Larry's down there.
Ricardo, the earlier thing that I was looking for, they call it the Micro Marks HO truck tuner. I was checking. Unfortunately, they don't have a version of that for N scale. So you'd have to figure something else out there. But that's what I was trying to think of earlier, by the way.
Yep. Larry, I see you there. Did you want to, you have something for the good of the order here, or? I'm sure you have wisdom for us.
There. I think I found the unmute.
You did.
I don't have any particular project. I have a bunch of projects in process, and I'm trying to get ready for the Twin City Model Railroad show and sale on the 18th. So with the New Brighton connection.
That's was it 9 to 3 on Saturday, or is it on Sunday as well, or just Saturday?
Oh, just Saturday and 9 to 3.
at the education building like usual?
Yes.
All right.
Great.
I might be there at the end of the show. Hopefully I can make it.
Good. Good. Well, guys, it was marvelous talking to everybody. We'll call her a night, and this, you won't have to drive all the way home from St. Paul. So, and you can, and the great part is you can watch the Zoom meetings in your pajamas if you like. So good guys. We'll see you in October and November. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Ken and Eric.
Happy
Good night,
model
everybody.
railroading. Yep. Good night.
Good night.
Yep. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. Good night.
Night.